ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਟੀਵੀ 84 ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਤੇ ਸਰੋਤਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਅਮਰਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਤਹਿ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦਾ। ਵਿਊਅਰਸ, ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਾਸ਼ਿੰਗਟਨ ਡੀਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੀ ਰਾਜਧਾਨੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇੱਥੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਹਿੱਲ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਰੇਬਨ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਕੌਂਸਲ ਵੱਲੋਂ US ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਫਰੈਂਡਸ਼ਿਪ ਨੂੰ ਮੁੱਖ ਰੱਖਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਲਾਨਾ 27ਵੀਂ ਵਰ੍ਹੇਗੰਢ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੇ ਅੰਬੈਸਡਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਤੇ ਆਜ਼ਾਦ ਕਸ਼ਮੀਰ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਚੀਫ ਗੈਸਟ ਉਹ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਸ਼ਮੂਲੀਅਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸੋ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੇ ਹਵਾਲੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਂ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ
ਪਿਆਰੀ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀਓ, ਖਾਲਸਾ ਸਾਜਨਾ ਦਿਵਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ 12ਵੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਡੇ ਪਰੇਡ ਹਰ ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਵੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਦਸ਼ਮੇਸ਼ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਅਤੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਭਾ ਕਾਟਨ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਵਿਖੇ 12 ਮਈ ਦਿਨ ਸ਼ਨੀਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਕੱਢੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਨਗਰ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਦੀ ਆਰੰਭਤਾ ਬਿਊਰੋ ਹਾਲ ਵਿਖੇ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਝਲਾਣ ਉਪਰੰਤ 11 ਵਜੇ ਆਰੰਭਤਾ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ। ਸਮੂਹ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕੇਸਰੀ ਦੁਪੱਟੇ ਅਤੇ ਦਸਤਾਰਾਂ ਸਜਾ ਕੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਸਮੇਤ ਪਹੁੰਚਣ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾਲਤਾ ਕਰਨੀ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਟੀਵੀ 84 ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਤੇ ਸਰੋਤਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਅਮਰਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਤਹਿ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦਾ। ਵਿਊਅਰਸ, ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਾਸ਼ਿੰਗਟਨ ਡੀਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੀ ਰਾਜਧਾਨੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇੱਥੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਹਿੱਲ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਰੇਬਨ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਕੌਂਸਲ ਵੱਲੋਂ US ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਫਰੈਂਡਸ਼ਿਪ ਨੂੰ ਮੁੱਖ ਰੱਖਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਲਾਨਾ 27ਵੀਂ ਵਰ੍ਹੇਗੰਢ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਗਿਆ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੇ ਅੰਬੈਸਡਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਤੇ ਆਜ਼ਾਦ ਕਸ਼ਮੀਰ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਚੀਫ ਗੈਸਟ ਉਹ ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਸ਼ਮੂਲੀਅਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸੋ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਦੇ ਹਵਾਲੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਂ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋ ਸਾਂਝ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਆ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਸ ਖਿੱਤੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖ ਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਡਿਮਾਂਡ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬਫਰ ਸਟੇਟ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਹੱਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੀਸ ਦਾ, ਸੋ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਫੈਕਟਰ ਦੀ ਕੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਯੋਗਦਾਨ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ, ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਮੁੱਖ ਰੱਖਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਡੈਲੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਸ਼ਮੂਲੀਅਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਖਾਲਿਸਤਾਨ ਅਫੇਅਰ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਦੇ ਸੰਚਾਲਕ Dr.Amarjit ਸਿੰਘ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਣਾ। ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਹੋਰ ਸਿੱਖ ਨੁਮਾਇੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਣਗੇ। ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਟੀਵੀ 84 ਦੀ ਟੀਮ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੀ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਕਵਰ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ। ਆਓ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੇਬਨ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ US ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਨੂੰ ਮੁੱਖ ਰੱਖਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਡਿਸਟਿੰਗੁਇਸ਼ਡ ਗੈਸਟ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਆ ਇਸ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ, ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਜਾਣਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਸਭ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੌਮ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਕੀ ਨਿਕਲ ਕੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ।
I've got many Pakistani Americans that live in my district, and I also have other people that live in my district. I have Italians and Irish. I have one of the largest Jewish populations in the country. I have Koreans and Chinese and Indian, but the Pakistanis are very good friends of mine, and I want to welcome the President of Kashmir for being here. We're very grateful for you to take the time like this. And when I first got, you can give him a round of applause. When I was first elected, a lot of my Pakistani friends talked to me about the importance of Kashmir and everything that's been going on for decades now. And I made it a very important point when I came to Washington, D.C. to go talk to American officials about the issues of Kashmir. And everybody I talked to didn't want to hear what I had to say because they were much more concerned about the western border with Afghanistan. They said, we're not going to talk about Kashmir until we figure out what's going on the western border first. And it was really a very harsh reality that I received. So I started to read a lot more. I read about the history of Pakistan. I read about the importance of the military at the time when Pakistan was first formed, that so much money was spent on the military and has been spent since then, which has really been a tremendous expense that the government has spent since the very early days. And I read about Mr. Jinnah and his great work that he did and his efforts to talk about Pakistan's role as in Islam. But he really wanted to keep it a secular state, but there are people that, when he passed away, that continued to push it to not be a secular state. And I learned about the great relationship between America and Pakistan throughout its history, whether it was related to spying on the Russians, or whether it was related to working together with President Nixon at the time to have access to China, whether it was helping fight the war on terrorism. And it was really, and I read other books about, there's a guy named Stephen Cole, it's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author that talked about what a difficult position Musharraf was put in at the time when President Bush said to him, you're either with us or against us. And that was very challenging because of the relationships between many people in Pakistan with their brothers and sisters that lived in Afghanistan and had long-term relationships. So it's really a very complex history that I don't think most people realize. And of course there's tremendous challenges regarding India and the relationship that India has with the Russians and that the Pakistanis have with the Chinese, and it's very complex. But I'm trying to learn about it, and I still don't know enough. I'm still trying to learn more. I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee and I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I've met with Ambassador Chaudhary on several occasions. I recently met with the Chief of the Air Force with Ambassador Chaudhary. And I've questioned General Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff about what America can do to help Pakistan. You know, America is very concerned about the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And there are tremendous efforts being made to repopulate the ungoverned areas in the Fatah region, tremendous efforts being made to try and stabilize the area, tremendous efforts to being made to actually build a wall along the border. But we know how difficult it is in America in trying to secure a border, and think how much easier it would be to secure our border versus securing a border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, with not only the geography is so extreme, but also because of the violence in the region as well. And I know how much violence there has been. So, and I said to Secretary Mattis and to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, what can we do to facilitate an effort by the Afghanis, with America's help, to secure the border from the Afghani side, while the Pakistanis are working on the Pakistani side? My hope, of course, when it comes, because I'm bringing up Kashmir here now, because it's not really on the front burner for the American government. It's really not something that they're being viewed as a priority. But I know what a priority is for the people in this room. And I think that the more that we can do to rekindle a positive relationship between the United States of America and Pakistan, especially as it comes to the war on terror and the relationship with Afghanistan, the more positive that relationship becomes, the more likely we can get America's input to try and help us with the Kashmiri issue. And I know that it's been 60, 70 years now that this has been going on, that you've expected this problem to be resolved. But I want you to know that I'm going to work very, very hard to help my friends in the Pakistani community that I represent. Of course, I represent the Indian community as well, and I represent the Korean community and the Chinese community and a whole bunch of other communities. But my goal is to let people realize that you look at the Pakistani Americans in my district, it's incredible the education level. It's incredible the success that's been achieved. The really embracing of America as their adopted country, and what great representatives they are of Pakistan and Kashmir as well, of people that have devoted themselves to hard work and to their family and to their faith and have really achieved great success here. And when we look at these issues, we've got to look at a couple different fronts. On the one hand, in America, we have to make sure that Pakistanis, like many other people, and many other minorities, are not discriminated against. I look at my Sikh friends here. My Sikh friends, Sat Sri Akal, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa. So I know that how much discrimination Sikhs are facing in America simply because you're turban wearing, and a lot of people are facing discrimination. I will always fight to represent your interests, to make sure that we try and live up to the American principle of all men and women are created equal. It's not that all men and women with a green card are created equal, or all men and women with a passport are created equal, or all men and women from a particular country are created equal, but all men and women are created equal because we're all made in God's image, and we need to figure out how we can live up to that American dream of people being treated equally, not only here in our country but throughout the world. So that's one issue, is just the discrimination that's being felt by many minority communities today, especially Muslims, especially turban-wearing Sikhs, people who have a different skin color or who have an accent. It's a major challenge we face in America and in the world. The second issue is I'm going to try and make sure that the American government is paying attention to Pakistan and is respectful of the complexity of the history, respectful of the relationship that has been had for so many years between Pakistan and America, respectful of the fact that Pakistanis have suffered a tremendous loss of life as they have fought the war on terror as well. So I will always try and bring those issues to the fore, as I did with and with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and other people on a regular basis, recognizing the challenges that Pakistan faces. But then my hope is, of course, for the long term. I see so many smart people in the Pakistani community. I've met so many high officials from the Pakistani government, and everybody's so smart and they're so sophisticated, they're so reasonable, and as soon as I scratch the surface a little bit and talk about India, everything changes. And the same thing goes on the Indian side. And we need to work to make sure that there's a hope for the future regarding these two countries, because it's never going to work that we just keep on figuring out who's stronger and who's going to kill who, and an eye for an eye, we all end up blind sooner or later. So that's something that I believe is a challenge. So one hopeful thing is think about the fact of America's relationship with Japan and Germany. I mean, those were our mortal enemies in World War II. Now they're some of our closest allies. Think of the America's relationship in Vietnam, and think of how far we've come since the Vietnam War. So I'm going to try and continue to learn as much as possible. I'm going to always look out for the interest of my constituents that I represent. I'm going to continue to try and educate people about the importance of this relationship and about the importance of our long-term future together. So thank you very much, everyone. Shukriya. Say it again.
Hundreds of young people, they've been targeted, been blinded by the parent guns and tactics of rape, intimidation, and all sorts of human rights violations. I mean, we do not lose our rights. Please address that.
Yeah, so I can't speak to that because I don't know the specifics about that. But one of my goals is, as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, is actually to travel to Pakistan next year. And I will specifically try and go to Kashmir as part of that trip if I'm permitted to by my government. But I would like to actually go there and see firsthand exactly what's going on. I have a lot of Kashmiri natives that are now living in my district that are very well educated on this issue and have been educating me about the issue. So I will try my very best to... Okay?
If we have time for questions.
I really have to go vote. Yes. Shukriya, everybody, and thank you so much. On the western border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And when I first came to office, one of the first things I did was go to talk to American officials and American experts about Kashmir, because this was brought up to me by many of my constituents. And I said, I'd really like to try and understand this and what's going on. And nobody wanted to talk about it because everybody was much more concerned about the border with Pakistan and Afghanistan than they were about the border between Pakistan and India, and that's not going to change. I mean, we have to understand what has happened here. We have to understand what a blow it was to this relationship when Osama bin Laden was discovered inside of Pakistan. I mean, that's a real. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is a real challenge that we face. There are it's a challenge. When I think of the long-term future of Pakistan, certainly we want their military to stay strong, but we need the civilian government to be much stronger than it currently is. And that's a very important part of trying to build these relationships going forward. Okay, so I really have to go to my next meeting. Father Martin, how are you? Nice to see you. All right, have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. We appreciate your support and your stand for the minorities, whether they are Muslim, Sikh, Hindu, or Jews. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Mohtaram Rana Ahmad Sahib for the opening remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and especially our guests from State Department and Congressional. This year, we are making another attempt to have Pakistani American Congress in Rayburn to do a conference, and I'm really appreciating and thank you, all of you, that you always participate with us, and hopefully we will conclude tonight the all-day activities. And again, I want to especially thank to my guests and President of Azad Kashmir, Sardar Masood Khan Sahib. Thank you, everybody.
Now we would like to invite President, Pakistan American Council, Mohtaram Sir Azad Chaudhary Sahib.
This is still good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On the behalf of Pakistani American Congress, I would like to welcome all of you. I would want to thank especially to President of Azad Kashmir, Sardar Masood Khan Sahib, who left all his business and came all the way here to participate in this our event. Thank you very much, sir. Similarly, I want to thank Professor Marvin, who is sitting here, Weinbaum, Ms. Courtney from State Department, and Commissioner Tom Reese for joining us today. A little more, I also want to thank all the media persons who are here, all of those who will join us here later on. I'm honored to thank my whole team of Pakistani American Congress who has worked tirelessly for this event. Which is included our Yunus Chaudhary Sahab, he is the President-elect, Muhammad Toor Sahab, and Malik Maqbool Sahab, and Fazlul Haq Sahab, and General Secretary Akil Khan Sahab, and Samir Khan Sahab. Everybody, they worked hard to manage this event. So thank you very much. I can also see a lot of big names here, and without saying anybody's name, I want to extend my gratitude to all of our audience for participating in today's event. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know that US-Pakistan relations are not very applaudable right now, but today we are here to learn from our experts that how can the both countries could have extraordinary relations between each other and how we could see the love, trust and friendship like we had experienced between United States and Pakistan. They had in late 50s, 60s, 80s and 2000s. A brief note in the end, I want to mention a couple of things that Pakistani American Congress has been encouraging Pakistani American community, especially our young generations, to come forward and play their vital role in American society by taking part in local politics, sports, and many other positive activities which can promote and engage and mobilize. Which can promote, engage, and mobilize this community and ensure its presence, and so we can have good results because without participating in our American society, we cannot get any kind of sense of presence in this community or in the society. So we are working on this issue very hard, and we are very humble to tell you that we are getting much more support than before. I thank you all again and convey my best wishes for all. Long live United States-Pakistan friendship, and long live Pakistan and United States of America. Thank you very much.
Now it's time to start our program formally. I would like to invite our first guest, Sardar Masood Ahmad Khan Sahib. I would like to introduce him briefly. Sardar Masood Ahmad Khan is the incumbent president of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. Prior to that, he had a distinguished career as a senior diplomat. He was Pakistan's permanent ambassador and representative to the United Nations in New York. He has also served as Pakistan's ambassador to the People's Republic of China. Apart from this, he has also served against several other senior positions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ambassador Masood Ahmad Khan Sahib, President AGK.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Azad Chaudhary, who is the President of Pakistani American Congress, Mr. Akil Khan, Secretary General of PAC, and Rana Aizaz, who is Chairman Board of Trustees of PAC, Ms. Courtenay, who is the representative of the State Department, there's Mr. Marvin Weinbaum from the Middle East Institute, Congressman Tom Suozzi was here with us from New York. I'm told that Mr. Brian Fitzpatrick will join us, and there are many others. I recognize most of the people who are sitting here. So good morning, everybody, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. Whenever I come to the Congress, I'm overawed and overwhelmed by the ambience of this place, because this place symbolizes commitment to human rights, to democracy, to promotion and protection of rights of not only the people of the United States, but people all around the world, no matter what their race, color, or creed is. This rotunda, the supporting officers here, they enrich and project America's soft image and soft power all around the world. I also want to compliment the leadership of the PAC, which has kept this fine tradition assembling once a year here on the Hill. And I remember that when I used to be in the Foreign Ministry way back in the early 90s, I used to accompany the Secretary General of the Foreign Ministry at that time. And I met many of my friends who are present here today at that time. And then later on, when I was posted here in the embassy, we used to wait for this event and prepare for this event throughout the year. And representatives from all over the United States would descend on the Hill and make it a memorable event. And I remember when I was Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations, I was invited by PAC to speak here. This was in 2013. So I've had the honor of addressing this audience before also. The United States is the one country which should understand what a freedom struggle is, what colonialism is, what foreign occupation is, what resistance is, because the United States owes its existence to a freedom struggle. And this city particularly has monuments to that freedom struggle. All the heroes, the towering heroes, you trace them back to the period of the struggle for independence. In the recent past, I would say there have been many positive developments. Particularly, I'd refer to the ongoing, unfolding rapprochement in the Korean Peninsula. The two Koreas have met, they've reached out to each other. The United States is preparing for a summit, and today 3 prisoners, US prisoners, have been released by the Koreans as a goodwill gesture. So good things are happening. Only a couple of years ago, or even a couple of months ago, people would have said that the Korean issue is intractable. It's very complex, and it cannot be resolved. It cannot yield to any solution. And now we see this fast momentum towards diplomacy, towards engagement, towards dialogue. This encourages us to intensify our political and diplomatic campaign for the resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. I can give you many other examples, but they are of the last century. For instance, how did it happen that France and Germany, which were sworn enemies in the interwar period and during the war, now are friends and working together, and they're pillars of the European Union, and they sit together in the European Parliament, and in fact are in the driving seat. I would also, before I go to Kashmir, I'd speak about Pakistan-US relations. The Congressman from New York talked about Pakistan-US relations and underlined the need for making them even stronger, or in fact, bringing them back on track would be more appropriate. I would say that Pakistan and the United States, since the late 1940s till today, have been allies. There have been ups and downs in their relationship, and they have found relevance for each other. They have been supporters of each other's interests. There has been mutuality of interest, and beyond that, they have been very, very good allies in tackling some of the most difficult issues in the world. During the Cold War, during the Afghan War in the 1980s, and also in the war against terrorism. Today, we see some turbulence in the relationship. And it's my hope and aspiration that this turbulence would be contained, and that the divergences that there are between Pakistan and the United States would be reduced. And the two sides would build on the convergences, and there are many convergences between the two countries. So let me talk now about the human rights situation in Jammu and Kashmir, in the Indian occupied Kashmir. And as you mentioned, sir, and as Congressman from New York was alluding to the horrendous human rights situation in the Indian occupied Kashmir, I just want to tell my audience that Kashmir is still part of this planet. It is on this planet. And every day, egregious human rights violations are taking place in that territory. People are being killed, maimed, tortured, incarcerated. Women are being raped, and rape is being used as an instrument of war. Even minor girls are not being spared. And this Asifa, her rape and mutilation and murder was the most gruesome incident in the recent past. She was subjected to this torture and ultimately death to send a message of collective punishment for the entire community to which she belonged. They are nomads or shepherds or Gujars as they are called. And so this was a signal to them, fall in line or else this is how you would be treated. I think that the human rights violations that are taking place in Kashmir border on commitment of crimes against humanity, genocide, ethnic cleansing, and I have chosen all the words responsibly and after cross-checking with the international law and international humanitarian law books. There has been a recent upsurge in killings, and as I was traveling to the United States to Washington, D.C., 14 young men were gunned down in these signature cordon and search operations, which are brutal, which spare no one, and which take on non-combatants. It's not just the so-called militants that they target non-combatant civilians, unarmed civilians. And Kashmiris, let me tell you, are the most unarmed people on earth, despite propaganda to the contrary. In the Indian occupied Kashmir, demographic changes are being made, and in accordance with the Geneva Convention, in accordance with Article 49 of Geneva Convention, and in accordance with Additional Protocol 1, these kind of demographic changes in an occupied territory and these kind of transfers of population are prohibited. They're illegal and they are a violation of international law. Such prohibition applies to population transfers in accordance with the ICC, International Criminal Court Statute, and because there are many ways, I don't want to go into details. I presume that everybody is very well informed about the demographic changes that are being made through the establishment of settlements in the occupied territory, also settling outsiders there, selling property to them, and so on. We condemn all these changes that are being made. And we particularly condemn overt and covert steps being taken to alter the demographic composition of the territory. One thing that worries us most about the Indian occupied Kashmir is that there are 700,000 troops deployed in Kashmir who are equipped with these draconian laws, Public Safety Act and Armed Forces Special Powers Act. They brutalize and terrorize the entire Kashmiri population. And they act with impunity. And all these perpetrators of terrorist acts against Kashmiri civilians have been given immunity from prosecution in accordance with these laws which have been dubbed as lawless laws by Amnesty International. We know what is hampering accountability of India, despite these crimes, these serious crimes against humanity. This is called realpolitik. We understand that the powerful Western nations who can make a difference to the lives of the Kashmiri people. They are bound by the chains of economic and strategic interests vis-a-vis India. And because of these strategic interests, they look the other way, or they choose to look at Kashmir through the prism of India, through the prism of Delhi. They do not look at Kashmir independently. They look at the Kashmir issue, if at all they look, in regard to the India-Pakistan question or the India-Pakistan dynamics, and in the process, the issue of Kashmir, massive, gross and consistent human rights violations in Jammu and Kashmir, in the Indian-occupied Kashmir, disappear from the radar screen of the international community, of the powerful capitals like Washington, also the United Nations Security. Now, let me tell you that India's stance about Kashmir is very simple, and it can be summarized into 3 points. One, kill Kashmiris, terrorize them, brutalize them, and give them a punishment which they cannot bear, so that they are intimidated and they capitulate. The second approach that they have, don't talk to the Hurriyat leaders, to the joint resistance leadership that is there in Srinagar. Don't talk to them, because by talking to them would give the impression that Kashmir is a dispute which needs to be resolved. And third, do not talk to Pakistan on Kashmir. Close all the doors for talks with Pakistan on Kashmir. This is the 3-point policy that they are pursuing. It's a myopic policy because India has remained in occupation of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute for the past 70 years, and despite that, it has not been able to integrate that territory into the Indian Union because of their brutal, inhuman and inhumane treatment of the Kashmiris. What is Kashmiri's stance? And what is Pakistan's stance? We firmly believe that state terrorism that is being used by India, or extremist violence which is being practiced by Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and other extremist organizations, that this is not going to resolve the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. That only through dialogue, diplomacy, only through the implementation of the UN Security Council resolutions which mandate a plebiscite in the territory to ascertain the wishes and aspirations of the Kashmiri people, only such a course of action would deliver dividends. Not violence, not killing of Kashmiris. Already more than 500,000 Kashmiris have been killed. But this hasn't resolved the problem even for India. This is never going to resolve the issue. In fact, it goes on to strengthen the resolve of the Kashmiris that no matter what happens, they will win their freedom and they will get their right to self-determination, despite all odds. I would like to make some proposals here from this platform, and one proposal is that the United Nations Security Council should rightfully get involved in the resolution of this dispute. If the United Nations Security Council is involved in the conflict situations in Central Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, why doesn't it get involved in the deteriorating human rights and security situation in Jammu and Kashmir? After all, this is the basic responsibility of the Security Council to maintain peace and security and to prevent human rights violations in any part of the world, especially when they assume such big proportions. We would also like to propose that the United Nations Military Observer Group, which is deployed along the LOC, should be expanded, and it should be given an additional mandate, not only to monitor the situation along the LOC, but to report substantively on what is happening in regard to human rights and other crimes that are being perpetrated there. To India, we would like to say that it should recognize Kashmir as a dispute, because dispute it is, and it cannot choose to ignore it or sweep it under the carpet. And it should work with Pakistan, the Kashmiris, and also the powerful governments of the world like the United States and the United Nations Security Council for a political solution of the problem. We would also demand that India should withdraw its armed forces, the bulk of the armed forces, and Central Reserve Police Force and Border Security Force from the civilian areas, because they are terrorized by the very presence and by their atrocious acts against the population. India should also repeal draconian laws like PSA, Public Safety Act, and Armed Forces Special Powers Act. India should release political prisoners, and the international community should raise voices demanding the release of political prisoners. Some time ago, in 2015, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mr. Zaid Rad al-Hussein, had proposed that a fact-finding mission of the Human Rights Council should go to both Azad Kashmir and to the Indian occupied Kashmir. In Azad Kashmir, we have welcomed, from Azad Kashmir, we have welcomed visit of that fact-finding mission. India has denied access to that proposed mission. We think that it's high time that the High Commissioner for Human Rights and the Human Rights Council revived that proposal and asked for the visit of that delegation, that mission, to the Indian occupied Kashmir. I think that India should open a dialogue with Pakistan without any caveats and qualifications and conditions in order to explore a solution, a lasting, a just solution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, which should respect the aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. India has sometimes given this impression, and it's gotten away with that, that's a bilateral issue, that it's an issue between India and Pakistan, and that Kashmiris have nothing to do with it. Nothing could be farthest from the truth. In fact, Indians often insist that Kashmiris should be taken out of the Kashmir issue, that it should be only between Delhi and Islamabad. This is an oxymoron. How can you take the principal party out of this issue? But this is what their preference is. This is what their predilections is. There are three parties to the dispute: Pakistan, India, and the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And the people of Jammu and Kashmir are the key party or the pivotal party to the dispute. And this must be respected. I would say that it's a tripartite issue. And the fourth party, there's a fourth party also. It can be called a four-party dispute. And the fourth party is the United Nations, which passed several resolutions way back in the 1950s, mandating a plebiscite to ascertain the wishes of the Kashmiri people and to make possible the realization of the right to self-determination of the Kashmiri people. Let me also say very clearly and categorically, the Kashmiris are not pursuing terrorism in any form or manifestation in the Indian occupied Kashmir. The movement is peaceful. India wrongly projects their peaceful movement as a terrorist or violent extremist movement. It is not. Kashmiris are peaceful people. They want their territory to be liberated. They want their home to become their home because they are being treated as aliens in their own homeland, and they want to put an end to the situation. Let me also tell you that the Kashmiris do not want to become a nuclear flashpoint between India and Pakistan, or a casus belli, or a perpetual strife and hostility between the two states. What we want is that Kashmir should become a symbol of connectivity and harmony between India and Pakistan, and for the whole of South Asia. Because those who've been to Kashmir, those who have interacted with the Kashmiri people, those who know the history of the Kashmiri people, they would testify that they are peaceful people, they are mystic people, they are culturally oriented people. They do not want war of any sort on their soil. Welcome, Congressman. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm moving towards the conclusion of my remarks. So, no, I can't repeat all that I have already said. So it was a long presentation that I have made. But I'm moving towards the concluding part. And the concluding part is, when you came into the room, I was saying that Kashmir, or the Kashmiris, do not want to be seen as the nuclear flashpoint between India and Pakistan. We want to be seen as a symbol of regional connectivity and harmony. And we want that this problem should be resolved through dialogue and diplomacy, not through war or violence or state terrorism or violent extremism. This is what I was saying. Now, I spoke about Pakistan-America relations, and I hoped that the turbulence, the current turbulence in the relationship would be overcome, and that we would be building on the convergences that are there between Pakistan and the United States, and we would be reducing the divergences which are destabilizing the relationship between the two countries. Because we have been allies for decades, and I recall that at one point Pakistan was called the most allied ally of the United States of America. So together we have won many wars, and I think that we should keep faith in this relationship. I made a detailed presentation about Kashmir, and I also highlighted about the horrendous human rights situation that is there, and that it requires international intercession by the United Nations Security Council, also by powerful capitals like Washington, D.C., because Washington, D.C. over the years has accumulated experience in moving the parties to the dispute of Kashmir towards some sort of resolution and engagement and confidence building and dialogue and diplomacy. I would say that we need, at this point, American attention and American support to the political and diplomatic campaign for the freedom of Kashmir, or for the realization of the right to self-determination of the Kashmiri people that we are sustaining. And we think that it's high time that the violence against Kashmiris in the Indian-occupied Kashmir is put to an end, and the whole process is moved towards dialogue and diplomacy. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and once again I would like to say what a pleasure it is for me to be near the Rotunda, on the Capitol Hill, in this Rayburn building, which is replete with rich history, and we are overwhelmed and overawed by the very ambience of this place. So again, we pin our hopes on American commitment to the values of fair play, justice, and equality for all. Thank you so much.
Please. Before he speaks, I'll take your permission to introduce what he has done as a congressman for all of us.
Born and raised in South Jersey, Congressman Donald Norcross is committed to improve the lives of working families by focusing on the issues of raising the wages and strengthening the economy, ensuring affordable access to a high-quality education, supporting the brave men and women, and protect our country. Early in Donald's career, he worked for a minimum wage. He was injured on the job. He was thankful for unemployment and disability insurance. His top priority is now raising the federal minimum wages over the next 7 years to $15 an hour, and nobody has done it before. As a graduate of both Camden County College and the Skilled Apprenticeship Program, Donald knows we need advanced job training in our country. He also fully understands the value of quality education. As a member of the New Jersey legislature, he played a key role in historic education reform that established New Jersey as a research and medical education hub. He was all a champion of that, bringing in highest quality of education to New Jersey. Donald has developed a reputation as an effective bipartisan reformer. As the only member of New Jersey's Congressional delegation on the House workforce, Donald is working to raise the wages, protect the middle class, strengthen the workplace protections, and advance paid leave and equal pay. He is also served on the House Armed Services Committee, where he focuses on to protect our national security by supporting services members. Donald Norcross was appointed by the members of caucus to serve as Assistant Whip in the 115th Congress. He was also selected to be a member of the Steering and Policy Committee, the Communications Committee, and most recently as the co-chair of the Rebuilding America Task Force. Donald and his wife, Andrea, live in Camden City and are blessed with 3 grown-up children and 2 grandchildren. I will now thank you. And one thing, the most important thing which I want to tell you about him, when this problem came in from Trump to close the admission of all the 7 Muslim countries residents who were here, my friend was the leading person who, you can say, he was leading the procession for all of us, for all the Muslim countries at Philadelphia airport. And he led that procession, and he was all the time. Next, what he did, he introduced a bill in the Congress that whoever was affected by this non-admission, they should be compensated, they should be given their jobs back, and they should be allowed to come back.
Just one quick announcement. We are honored to have our ambassador to United States, Mr. Aizaz Ahmad Chaudhary. He is with us.
Nice to meet you.
And we welcome you all.
He should speak first.
No.
Please go ahead. No, I'm fine. I'll speak. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for that kind and long introduction. Known Akil for so many years, back when I served in the New Jersey legislature, and certainly for that time since I've been here in Washington. Well, you're in the gold room, which is much better than we had last year. And if things continue and we're successful, we'll have you back to the platinum room next year. A little bit, and we'll be air conditioned. So we're working on that. But Mr. Ambassador, It's great to have you here at interesting times, not only in our country or our state of New Jersey, but the world as a whole. Obviously, there is a large issue going on in North Korea with our country, and as of yesterday, the Middle East is now starting to re-explode. But for the last 14 years, particularly in the Iraq-Afghanistan area, we have been in much conflict, which puts us to some of the questions that have been brought to me about the relationship of our two great countries. And the one thing that I've very much enjoyed hearing is about the diplomacy and having that conversation. It's easy to get into fights. We all know that. It is more difficult. It takes more courage to make the peace. That is something that I have been focused on. The two committees that I serve on primarily is education and the workforce, which deals with our entire system from kindergarten through college, and then the issues of dealing with the workforce to make sure people are paid well and are safe at jobs, and they have the dignity of taking care of their family. The other one happens to be the Armed Services Committee, where yesterday we spent close to 20 hours working up what they call the National Defense Authorization Act. It is that one bill a year that comes through, and we happen to have made it possible to spend $717 billion yesterday. I think that's even more than the paycheck that you get, isn't that, Akil? Maybe close. But there are two very different schools of thought when it comes to making sure that the money is well spent. I come from the position of a strong defense is not only important for security of yourselves, but security of your friends. And this is where Pakistan becomes so important in that region and as a world player. And that there's not a day that goes by that we're not having a discussion now about nuclear proliferation, whether it's North Korea, Iran. And you are part of the club that is very exclusive. But most importantly, you're part of that club that is trying to contain and make it for peace. Making it for peace is so, so important. So as we were doing some discussions and looking at, Malalia, who just returned, and it's indicative of some of the challenges that not only your country faces at times, but ours. You certainly know what it's like to live with terrorist activity. We do too. Whether it was Las Vegas, California, Florida. We all live under the threat. But the one thing that unites us is our love for not only our countries, but those of our family. We want to have the safe environment for our kids to grow up in, for our grandkids to grow up in, that they will have a world that they can feel safe. Those challenges come before us each and every day, particularly when you're here in the Gold Room, in the Rayburn building, with that symbol of democracy across the street called the United States Capitol. So, diplomacy has had its ups and downs over the last year or so with the new administration. Unfortunately, we have not put into place enough of our ambassadors to have what I consider a very complete diplomatic force to address issues. General Mattis, who is our Secretary of Defense, said very importantly that if you're going to keep the diplomacy professionals out, then you better double my budget for bullets, because we're going to need it. I think we all understand that it's much easier, much more important to have a conversation with voices than with guns. So with that, I want to say thank you for coming here to Washington, our nation's capital, sharing what you understand your issues are. There was a very famous gentleman, Martin Luther King, who talked about the division that our country faced. In this case, it was race in many ways, but it was also poverty. And he said that we all came here on different ships, but we are in the same boat now. And that's the way I look at it when we're dealing with issues from around the world. This is our world collectively, and it's our obligation, it is our duty to keep it safe. Thank you very much.
Father Thomas J. Reese. Father Thomas J. Reese is an American Roman Catholic Jesuit priest, author, and a journalist. He is a senior analyst at Religion News Service and served as USCIRF chair from June 2016 to May 2017. Previously, he was a columnist at the National Catholic Reporter from 2015 to 2017 and a senior fellow at the Woodstock Theological Center from 2006 to 2013 and from 1988 to 1998. He joined the center as a visiting fellow in 1985. He was editor-in-chief of America magazine from 1998 to 2005 and an associate editor from 1978 to 1985. As an associate editor, he covered politics, economics, and the Catholic Church. He has entered the Society of Jesuits in 1962 and was ordained in 1974. Please welcome Thomas J. Reese.
Good morning. And I want to especially thank the Pakistani American Congress for hosting this event and for inviting me to speak. I am Father Thomas Reese, former chairman and currently a member of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. USCIRF, as we call it, is an independent, bipartisan U.S. federal government commission dedicated to the universal right to freedom of religion or belief abroad. I stress the point universal because I may be a Catholic priest, a Christian, but our commission advocates for religious freedom for everyone. We have been very critical of China and its treatment of the Uyghur Muslims. We have been extremely critical of Burma and its treatment of the Rohingya, which amounts to ethnic cleansing. And we have also been very critical of India and its treatment of the Muslims in that country. Very critical of the RSS and the Modi government. So I wanted to stress that. Our work is based on research conducted by a professional staff and on-site visits by commissioners and staff. Every year we issue an annual report on conditions in countries around the world. And we also make recommendations to the President, the Secretary of State, and the Congress on issues of religious freedom. The 9 USCIRF commissioners are appointed by the President and the congressional leadership of both political parties. In Pakistan, both the government and non-state actors have long committed religious freedom abuses in varying degrees. As a consequence, USCIRF has recommended that Pakistan be designated as a country of particular concern, or CPC, for committing and tolerating systematic, ongoing, and egregious religious freedom violations each year since 2002. While the State Department has never designated the country a CPC, in December of 2017, it named Pakistan as the first and only country on its special watch list, which means that greater scrutiny will be applied to the review of the Pakistani government's actions concerning the protection of religious minorities. USCIRF recently published its 2018 report which included an analysis of the current challenges to religious freedom in Pakistan. The report is available on our website. In 2017, the country's blasphemy laws and increased extremist activity further threatened the already marginalized minority communities, including the Ahmadis, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, and Shia Muslims. The blasphemy laws have been used to victimize religious minorities, with nearly 100 cases registered since 2011, and nearly 40 people on death row awaiting their execution, including Asia Bibi, a Christian mother who was jailed in 2010. Vigilante attacks on alleged blasphemers is also a serious issue. Just last year, a college student was killed by some of his own students and faculty in a terrible incident in Pakistan. Just last week, the Pakistani Interior Minister was shot and wounded by a man who feared that the government was going to weaken its anti-blasphemy laws. It is important to remember that along with these negative trends, there are some positive developments in Pakistan. For example, the Supreme Court of Pakistan recently called for the release of a suspect accused of committing blasphemy after hearing an appeal on the matter. In addition, the Supreme Court Chief Justice recently promised to quickly address the case of Asia Bibi. Furthermore, the number of targeted killings of Shia Muslims in Karachi has subsided in the aftermath of a law and order operation by the city's police and the nation's Army Rangers. Hindu marriage and family law legislation has also been approved by the Parliament, and we hope to see similar legislation for Christians in the near future. However, the lead up to the 2018 election has been a difficult time for religious freedom in Pakistan, with extremist political parties entering the electoral field. These parties have held public protests and called for a campaign of hate against the Ahmadis, going as far as to demand the names and positions of Ahmadis in government. Perhaps most disturbing is the tacit support offered the protesters by various military officials. This was highlighted in a viral video that showed a military leader handing out money to protesters, ostensibly to pay for their transportation away from the protest areas. Without measurable reforms to improve the security of religious minorities in Pakistan, the future of these groups may be at stake. Therefore, USCIRF has recommended that the State Department negotiate an agreement with the government of Pakistan to achieve specific and meaningful reforms, and to provide resources for related capacity building through the State Department and USAID. With the assistance of the State Department, USCIRF hopes that the leadership in Pakistan can attempt to make real progress on these issues. Thank you very much.
Excellent talk. Thank you so much for your kind and detailed insight into the issue of religious minorities in Pakistan. Now let's move forward, and I would like to invite our next guest, Dr. Marvin Weinbaum. Dr. Marvin Weinbaum is currently serving as Director for Pakistan and Afghanistan at the Middle East Institute. He is a Professor Emeritus of Political Science at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He has also served as analyst for Pakistan and Afghanistan in the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Intelligence and Research from 1999 to 2003. His areas of interest are Pakistan and Afghanistan. Kindly welcome Ambassador Dr. Marvin Weinbaum.
Thank you, Nasser, and it's a pleasure to be here again to address a group which has gained such enormous prominence for its activity here in bettering American-Pakistani relations. When we talk about American-Pakistani relations, it seems these days we focus mainly on Afghanistan. And we see Afghanistan as the irritant, really. And I think that's understandable, particularly at a time when the situation in Afghanistan appears at best to be stabilizing and perhaps even deteriorating, and the need for explanations and the need for finding quick solutions when there may not be a short-term solution at all. But let me suggest here, without going into that, and I was very briefly here to say that there are other aspects of the relationship which have to be taken into consideration, and we have, in looking forward now in where this relationship is going to go, we had better take these into account. As we understand the relationship between Pakistan and the United States going forward, we have to look at the relationship that the United States is going to be entering in with China as we go forward. What will be U.S. policy towards India? Both of these are going to have, I think, a considerable impact. But nothing will affect, I believe, this relationship more than what has just happened, and that is the decision to pull out of the Iranian nuclear deal. And why do I say this? Because obviously it upsets me. I think that's very clear. But I think that aside, the very dynamics of the region now could change. And I think that Pakistan and the United States has to be prepared for this. All through recent history, what we have seen here is a very, very skilled effort on Pakistan's part to be able to balance its relationship with Saudi Arabia and Iran. And I think this has been critical, and it's owed really to excellent diplomacy on the part of Pakistan that has been able to do this. And what has made it possible is that both Iran and Saudi Arabia have not pressed Pakistan to make a choice, to choose between them. I think this is critical. What concerns me now, and what I think we should be on alert for here, is that if the relationship between the two changes, particularly if Iran proceeds now to reignite its nuclear program, Saudi Arabia is going to be in the market, if you will, for a counter to this development. And I think Pakistan, most people agree, is going to find pressures put upon it that it's going to be very difficult for Pakistan to deal with, but it must deal with it. Pakistan, I believe, has to continue to, as best it can, to avoid becoming embroiled in this rivalry, which I fear is going to intensify now. I worry about the danger here of potential military action in the region and the kind of challenge that this will represent to Pakistan as to how it is going to respond. It's very interesting, unless I missed something, that as a result of the decision on the part of the president, there hasn't been very much reaction out of Pakistan or Afghanistan for the moment. And I think that this is welcomed here at this point in time. But I am concerned here about what will happen if we see that there is that this moves towards a more belligerent status than it is right now, and the kind of position that this is going to put Pakistan in. Well, I could go on in this vein, but I think that we have to say that these are difficult days. These are difficult days for the region. We hope that Korea will perhaps give us some hope here for diplomacy elsewhere in the world, but very honestly, one has reason to be skeptical. Finally, what I want to say is that for Pakistan to be able to deal with the challenges that now will face it regionally, particularly, and in this continuing relationship with the United States in particular, it's going to have to put its own house in order. It's going to have to deal with its own problems. It's going to have, and this is a time now when Pakistan is being put to the test. It has an election coming up now. How it handles this election, how its political class, how its leaders here address this this going forward here, and are themselves able to recognize that unless Pakistan stands together, unless the people of Pakistan stay together, unless it deals with some of the internal challenges which Father here has just spoken about, it's going to be in a weaker position here to be able to manage what could be very difficult days ahead of us. So in conclusion then, let me say that this is what Pakistan does is going to I believe, be critical to the region and certainly to the future of U.S.-Pakistan policy. So I wish you the best in this meeting this afternoon.
Friends standing behind, I would appreciate if you guys have your seats. Excellent talk, Dr. Weinbaum. Thank you so much for your insightful talk. Now I would like to invite our distinguished guest from State Department. Her name is Katni Dan. She has worked in international affairs for 2 decades and is the Deputy Director in the Office of Pakistan Affairs at the State Department. A civil servant, Ms. Dan joined the State Department in 2004. She has worked extensively on South Asia, Eastern Europe, and U.S. economic and foreign assistance policy. Having also served in Congress on the House of Representatives Appropriations Committee, Subcommittee on State and Foreign Operations and related programs. Prior to joining the government, Ms. Dan worked in the non-profit sector, specifically at the International Research and Exchanges Board in both Washington and Moscow. Ms. Dan earned a master's degree in public affairs from the Woodrow Wilson School for Public and International Affairs from Princeton University. Please put your hands together to welcome the distinguished guest.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm very happy to be here at the Pakistani American Congress. Thank you for the kind introduction, and congratulations to you on organizing this event, and greetings to the other honored guests here. It's a pleasure to see you. Today I've been asked to speak a little bit about the U.S.-Pakistan relationship, and just as importantly, to highlight the critical role that the Pakistani American diaspora community plays in that relationship to the benefit of both of our countries. So I'm honored to be here. You, I think, as you know, represent a unique group. As I've heard Ambassador Chaudhary himself say before, you are Americans, you're Pakistanis, you are thereby a critical bridge of all kinds, of philanthropy, of business, of values, of ideas, of cooperation that spans our two countries and helps us collaborate and understand one another better. So first, let me say a few words about the bilateral relationship. As I was mentioned in my introduction, I work at the State Department and I work all day, every day on Pakistan in the Office of Pakistan Affairs. So I'm very well acquainted with our relationship right now. And obviously, you all know that Pakistan and the United States have been working side by side for over 70 years. So building on this long-standing cooperation is critical to both of our nations. And it's true that like any relationship, we have areas of disagreement, but I'm hopeful that our shared interests in a strong and prosperous Pakistan and a strong and prosperous region means our relationship will continue to grow and prosper. Let me say a few words about our South Asia strategy as was introduced last year. Regionally, that's our framework for our vision for the future, the South Asia strategy, which our president announced in August of last year. It lays out a vision of how we get to a goal that we all share, that of a peaceful, prosperous South Asia region, including a negotiated, durable settlement to the conflict in Afghanistan. That strategy has a few key components. One is a renewed commitment to staying the course in Afghanistan for as long as it takes to enable a political settlement there. The strategy also puts forward a renewed focus on regional diplomacy and engaging all players, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, as well as China, Central Asian countries, even Russia, to help achieve those objectives. That strategy also relies on Pakistan's support to succeed. Pakistan has done tremendous work and made enormous sacrifices fighting terrorism. We all know that. In particular, Pakistan has been relentless in pursuing groups that target its institutions and its population. As part of the strategy, we are also asking Pakistan to target without distinction all terrorist groups that would use Pakistan's territory to raise funds or attack others in the region. Currently, as a U.S. government, our assessment is that while Pakistan has taken some initial constructive steps in this, it is yet to undertake the decisive, sustained efforts we have requested against groups that would attack others in the region. And the suspension of security assistance to Pakistan announced in January was a signal of that concern. So obviously there are times when we don't agree as friends, right? And we hope that Pakistan will recognize, and indeed we hope that you will communicate to your friends and colleagues in Pakistan that it is also in Pakistan's interest to take those steps. And we will continue to engage as we all consider this bilateral relationship very important. I want to go on, though, because while security is important and often gets most of the focus, our relationship with Pakistan is much broader. The South Asia strategy made clear that civilian engagement, including commercial engagement, between our countries should continue. We do that all the time, right? We are working on building ties not just between our governments, but between our businesses, our non-governmental and academic institutions, and our populations. Indeed, we see that there's tremendous potential in the economic relationship between the U.S. and Pakistan, which continues to grow. Let me give you a few statistics on that. Two-way trade between the U.S. and Pakistan reached $6.4 billion in 2017, which was an all-time high. U.S. exports to Pakistan were $2.8 billion of that last year, also an all-time high, and we were pleased that our trade deficit with Pakistan fell by over 40%. So many Pakistani business people tell us profits are at record highs and express optimism about coming years. U.S. companies often say the same thing. They are growing their businesses, operating in Pakistan, employing Pakistanis, and are bullish about future prospects. Just to mention one example, Procter & Gamble has a 26-year history in Pakistan and more than $150 million in investment in Pakistan. Let me give you another more less known example. Last year there's a program with the city of Austin, Texas, led to develop linkages among entrepreneurs and startup incubators in Austin and Pakistan, and it resulted in the announcement of the intent to raise a $20 million venture capital fund for Pakistani tech startups by the company 1839 Adventures. So that's just another interesting example of the kind of linkages we're building. At the same time, and as part of our constant dialogue with Pakistan, It's also true, and we note that U.S. companies also sometimes express concern to us about the business climate in Pakistan, the lack of transparency in assessment of taxes, the judicial system, which can sometimes be slow, concerns about intellectual property protections, and lack of clarity on how U.S. companies can participate in projects under the U.S.-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, which U.S. companies are very interested in doing. So these are just a few examples of the kind of dialogue and the economic sphere we have every day with the Pakistani government. And we know as the diaspora community, often involved in business, we welcome and appreciate your input into those perspectives, and also helping to reinforce those messages so that Pakistan can unlock its full growth potential. I should add that our cooperation goes well beyond business. We work with Pakistan cooperatively to help strengthen its civilian institutions, foster trade and growth, develop infrastructure, promote the rights of women and girls, strengthen good governance and policing, and help build the education system's capacity. We've worked together, just to give you a few examples, on major infrastructure. The U.S. has helped build or repair nearly 2,000 kilometers of road in the Afghanistan-Pakistan border region in Pakistan since 2009. Further, to advance private investment, we have great cooperation with Pakistan in its energy sector. We've committed to over $1 billion in the sector in Pakistan since 2009. Through infrastructure and other kinds of improvements, we've helped add 3,200 megawatts. In Pakistan, I've found everyone knows about megawatts, right? Megawatts to Pakistan's power supply, enough to provide for nearly 39 million Pakistanis. USAID programs are partnering with Pakistani banks to expand private sector lending for energy projects, and have built a transmission line in Sindh that leveraged 680 megawatts of private investment in power, particularly wind energy. U.S. technical assistance helped Pakistan begin its first liquid natural gas, or LNG, imports in recent years. So I think these are a few great examples that I like to cite. Our cooperation in higher education and exchange programs is also very, very broad. So for example, the largest U.S. government-funded Fulbright program in the world, worldwide, is with Pakistan. People don't always know that. With nearly 500 Pakistani Fulbright fellows currently in the U.S. In nearly 70 years, in fact, there has never been a time where both nations were so invested in the flagship Fulbright program between our countries, a testament to the value we place on that kind of educational partnership. The government of Pakistan's commitment to fund 125 additional Fulbright PhDs to study in the U.S. also represents one of the top foreign governments' contributions worldwide to the Fulbright program. So we consider this a key element of what Minister Ahsan Iqbal refers to as the US-Pakistan Knowledge Corridor, which is something of great value to both countries. And our thoughts are with Minister Iqbal, of course, as he recovers from the terrible attack on him this week. He's been a great leader and partner in US-Pakistan higher education collaboration for a number of years. Overall, Pakistani alumni of U.S. programs number over 25,000 individuals, the world's largest alumni network. And among them, it has some illustrious participants. Prime Minister Abbasi himself is an alumnus of the International Visitor Leadership Program. Finally, we actively cooperate with Pakistan women's economic advancement and participation, which studies show is key to growth in any country. Indeed, some of you may have had the chance to cooperate with us on the US-Pakistan Women's Council, a game-changing public-private partnership, which has been working since 2012 to help build high-potential women and girls' potential in the formal economy in cooperation with leading companies in both Pakistan and the United States. So the Women's Council has initiated all kinds of programs to promote women's entrepreneurship and ease barriers to women's participation in the economy. Partnerships with council member corporations like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Engro, S&P Global, Procter & Gamble, Citigroup, and the US-Pakistan Business Council have been key to its success. So continuing to draw on private sector leadership, including many of you, we can all work together to increase opportunities for women and girls, increase business ties, and improve both economies. And to the Pakistani American diaspora community more broadly, I want to say that we're grateful for your partnership and the many ways in which you personally contribute. We look forward to continuing to work with many of you in the future. I should note that one of the areas in which we hope to collaborate in the future is the Fulbright program. 2020 will mark the 70th anniversary of the Fulbright program in Pakistan, so it's almost as old as our bilateral relationship. And we're interested in exploring ways to continue a robust program and would welcome any thoughts you have. So let me say that as citizen ambassadors in the community schools and workplaces in which you live, study, and visit, I know that you have educated Americans about Pakistan, and similarly you helped explain U.S. perspectives to Pakistanis. And while all countries, the U.S. included, have their problems, we hope that in your daily lives you help express in Pakistan some of the values that we hold so dear in the United States. These include, for example, the importance of cultivating a competitive and responsive business climate that will help foster growth, helping Pakistan understand the importance of broadening counterterrorism efforts to include all terrorist groups that would destabilize the region, and ensuring Pakistan cannot be a sanctuary for groups that would attack its neighbors, promoting and ensuring human rights, encouraging Pakistan to bolster and protect its democratic values such as free and fair elections, freedom of the press, human rights, and appreciation of Pakistan's rich ethnic and religious diversity. I always say that Pakistan has all the ingredients and potential to be the world's next economic success story. It's the fifth, soon to be sixth, I believe, largest and most youthful population in the world. It's an attractive market of 200 million people with a rapidly growing middle class and an entrepreneurial spirit. So I feel confident that we will continue to work together as countries, and I encourage you all to be ambassadors in as many ways as possible. That also includes getting involved to shape society here in America, even American politics. Every contribution matters. So thank you very much for your time and for your contributions.
There are so many projects on which US is helping Pakistan out, especially in education and energy sector. Thank you so much. I would appreciate if friends would sit on their seats and listen to the talks. Our next distinguished guest is Pakistan's ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Azad Chaudhary. Ambassador Azad Chaudhary. Ambassador Azad Chaudhary is the current Pakistan's ambassador to the United States. He has also served as Foreign Secretary of Pakistan. Prior to this, he served as Foreign Office spokesman. He has also served as Pakistan's ambassador to the Netherlands. In his other overseas assignments, Mr. Chaudhary served as Deputy Permanent Representative of Pakistan to the UN in New York, and so many other assignments. He has also a master's degree from Tufts University. Please welcome Ambassador Azad Chaudhary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I must, at the outset, of course, thank Azad Chaudhary and Rana Taj Sahib. Kidhar hai, sir? Yeah, there he is. For putting together this Day on the Hill. I know that you have been working for it for good about 3 months, because that's where you told me to block the date, and I did. And I'm happy that you have also invited so many good speakers to share their thoughts. Let me say at the outset, of course, I would reflect on some of the statements I just heard, that Pakistan, for Pakistan, this relationship is one of the most important relationships. There should be no doubt in anybody's mind. And as Courtney has rightly indicated, Pakistani diaspora has a role to play in as a bridge, because you are Americans, but you have a country of heritage of which you are proud of, and therefore you are the true bridge. And that's what I have been working for, to ask the Pakistani Americans to play the role that they need to play. And I'm very happy to announce to you that in my countrywide travels, I have discovered a great zeal of pride for Pakistani Americans in their adopted homeland, and also playing a role to bring the country of their heritage closer to America. More than that, I think it's the second generation Pakistani Americans who are now entering the practical life, who are more keen than even the first generation to ensure that their country in which they have been born and bred, they would carry forward the mission of the first generation to keep the two countries connected and engaged. So that's a good news for me, born out of really 8 to 10 months of travels and meeting people from our community, as well as in this house, by the way. In Capitol Hill, I also saw, and I've met quite a few people, and I've noticed there is a big desire. I must have met more than 50, 60 senators and congressmen one-on-one, and I've met some of them several times, and there was always an echo of the same desire that Pakistani Americans have, that these two countries must stay connected. So I'm happy that to hear Congressman Norcross basically saying the same thing, that this country is a country of immigrants, and immigrants will always continue to play a very important role in this country. So I think more or less the same thoughts will be echoed. Let me reflect on some of the other statements that I heard. Professor Weinbaum is an institution in himself. He's a living history of not only Pakistan-US relations, but US relations with many other countries in our region. So any word that comes from him, we listen to him very carefully. He rightly identified that considerable part of the conversations that we're having these days relate to Afghanistan. A lot of time is spent on that. We do understand that Afghanistan, the war in Afghanistan is not winding down. We also understand that President Trump has issued an August 21 strategy, which indicates that the United States would remain committed until peace returns to Afghanistan. So we are happy with that commitment. But we always felt that the solution to Afghanistan will not be through military means. It will be a comprehensive political solution. But the objective both for Pakistan and US is the same. We want to see peace in Afghanistan because it's in our interest. We have learned through history that instability in a neighboring country always flows into your own country. So we want to see peace in Afghanistan, and we believe the United States wants to see peace in Afghanistan. It's been a long war. And I think the United States would like to stabilize Afghanistan and move on. So therefore, it's only a matter of reconciling strategy, and I can see in the last couple of months, the emphasis is shifting towards that political approach as well. A number of efforts have been made. Ashraf Ghani, the president of Afghanistan, has issued this comprehensive package of reconciliation on February 28th. And I can also see the statements made from US generals and others. And I know that State Department Ambassador Alice Wells has worked very hard, has been traveling to make that happen. Mr. Weinbaum also talked about whether US relations with China and US relations with India will affect in some ways US relations with Pakistan. I have a firm belief that this should not be so. I believe that Pakistan's relations with China and Pakistan's relations with the United States are not a zero-sum game. We were a bridge to China for the United States 40 years ago, and we remain that. We'd like to take pride in that. So I would, say that to friends in the United States that if we go back in time with China, so do we go back in time with the United States. United States right through the time when we were created as a country has been a benevolent face for Pakistan. And therefore, I am quite confident that this would remain so. For India, I believe that US tilt towards India seems to have emboldened Indians to take the heavy-handed approach. And thus, that's what I've been saying, that be it the Jammu and Kashmir, be it minorities, be it relations with Pakistan, it's a heavy-handed approach which is being applied. There is no talks, there are no dialogue, and we believe that the United States has a role, has had a role in the past to create that balance in the relationship between Pakistan and India. And we do hope that the United States would like to play that role, which historically, as a global power, as a preeminent power, it has played. On Iran decision that you mentioned, that probably this would be the most, and you also feared that perhaps there could be a potential conflict. Pakistan, let me make it very clear, gentlemen and ladies, that for Pakistan, our relations with Saudi Arabia are important. It is home to 2 holiest shrines, and it is also home to 2 million Pakistanis who work there and live there. Our relations with Iran are also important because Iran is a neighbor and has had Persian cultural imprint on Pakistan's culture. In fact, the whole of Indian subcontinent culture. So we have maintained that balance, and you appreciated that we have been able to maintain that balance, and we will continue to do that. For the nuclear deal, we have not given any reaction to President Trump's decision. That is your country's decision. But for us, when the nuclear deal was signed, we had welcomed it. We had welcomed it because it was a success of diplomacy in our view. And there was also a vested interest that Pakistan had. Vested interest is that Iran under sanctions means that Pakistan cannot trade, cannot hold economic interactions with Iran. Iran was an energy-rich country and we were an energy-starved country, therefore it made perfect sense for us to buy that energy from Iran, but unfortunately we were inhibited. If I can request people, hello, those who are talking, can you sit down or go outside to talk, if you don't mind? Because it disturbs the speaker, it disturbs those who want to listen. Maybe if you don't want to listen, you can always step out, talk to each other, and then come back and then sit, if you don't mind. Thank you. So I believe that this deal had opened up chances for Pakistan to engage economically with Iran. So that's why we had welcomed it. As for present situation, we have not yet, the government of Pakistan will make up its own announcement when it comes. You also mentioned Pakistan's own problems. Like every country, Pakistan also has its own set of problems. But I believe that in the last few years, we have come a long way. Our major challenge in the last 2 decades was terrorism, to fight terrorism. And in the last 3 years or so, we have actually reversed the tide of terrorism. It is borne by statistics and empirical evidence. And in our region, which is still grappling with the forces of terrorism, including next door Afghanistan, we have shown that success can be achieved. With countries facing half the violence that we faced from 2003 to 2014, their armies disintegrated, the countries disintegrated. Pakistan has done it, and we are very proud of our achievement. Yes, it came at a cost. 6,000 soldiers laid down their lives, 17,000 injured, 23,000 civilians lost, $125 billion economic loss, but we are happy. We are happy because we have done it. And we have secured every inch of the territory called tribal areas, which for centuries had not seen a settled governance. I think history is being made. Now a political package is being prepared, and once that happens, history would have been made. We are pleased about it. And better law and order means economic situation is improving. As Courtney also mentioned, economic situation is improving. And that's where I have focused a lot to attract corporate America to go and invest in Pakistan. Because I believe that United States should be present in Pakistan in the economic domain. And I hope it does. And I hope my own government makes those conditions even more congenial and attractive for US businesses, not only US, but from the rest of the world. So I'm very, very pleased at these developments. I'm also pleased at the democratic process deepening its roots. Sometimes we see TV screens and we get, oh my God, ye pata nahi kya ho raha hai. Nothing is happening. Democracies are noisy, but people don't have to get impatient. Democratic processes take their own way, own course. And if the elections take place after 3 months, end of July, and we get into another elected government, I think we would be well on our course to a democratic process. Remember, in 70 years, 4 times our democratic process was interrupted. But since 2008, it is continuing, and I see every sign of it continuing. I also see that the values of accountability and values of transparency are now far more up in the graph for all politicians and everybody. So that's also a good sign. We also have the youth. 60% of country's population is below age 30, and our youth is very, very active. Hundreds of thousands of them are actually doing their own businesses in information technology and connected to the rest of the world, more so with the United States. So I'm very, very positive about the potential. As Courtney, you also mentioned that there is a huge economic potential for Pakistan, and I hope it works. And I do want to emphasize that I hope that while we work on that, United States and Pakistan will be partners in achieving our objectives. There was a gentleman here, sir, on religious freedom. You spoke a lot. I believe that for any country, I am an ordinary citizen of Pakistan, and my rights as an ordinary citizen will be bolstered if human rights are protected and promoted in my country. Nobody from outside should really tell me, because this is an objective that our own government, our own people should and have that. What happens is that democratic governments always are more sensitive to these needs. So they do that. Yes, Asia Bibi is a case for which the government has gone to the Supreme Court to reverse the. What do you say to that? It's the elected government. It's the government of Pakistan which has gone to the Superior Court to reverse the judgment of the previous court. Similarly, many other human rights abuses are addressed, and that is where we should go, and we should always keep saying that we should. But let me also say one point. Human rights are indivisible. There are no precious lives, and there are no easy, cheap lives. If concerns are expressed about human rights of certain individuals in Pakistan, we should also be expressing concern about the human rights violations, gross human rights violations in Indian occupied Kashmir, where pellet guns are being fired. Yesterday, President of AJK told me that 1,400 people have been victim of pellet guns fired directly towards their eyes, deliberately. You know, the thumb rule for firing is that you go below the belt so that you don't hurt a person. But this was fired directly into their eyes to make them blind. They lost their eyesight. And similarly, these have been continuing. Now, people would say, all right, this is the third generation of Kashmiris who are fighting these brutalities. Hundreds of thousands of troops are there. Should United States and should other countries of the world and should UN Human Rights Commission, Council now, and others not speak about it? I believe they should. So, you know, human life is equal so in our religion, in my religion, let me put it this way, in Islam, losing one life is as if losing humanity, and saving one life is as if saving humanity. So I believe that we have been saying this in our official approaches to the US government, that they must take notice of the gross human rights violations in Kashmir also, and prevent and stop the Indian government for committing those excesses that they are doing to the people of Kashmir. Let me move on to, I think Congressman Norcross, I have addressed his point. Courtney, I have addressed your point. You mentioned that US would like to participate in CPAC, but there is lack of clarity. I've always conveyed this, that there should be special windows and channels created to allow US also to participate in the economic activities. For CPAC, CPAC itself is a Pakistan-China project, but but a number of projects are happening already in which US is a partner. For example, in many energy projects, it's a three-way partnership. General Electric, for example, in most of our energy projects, they are the ones who are which are supplying, turbines and other parts that are needed. Similarly, ExxonMobil and Accelerate Energy in Houston and many others are now providing LNG to Pakistan and bringing the energy deficit narrower. So I am quite optimistic. In the last 1 year, I have seen corporate energy, corporate America going towards Pakistan. I've also seen in the letter that President Trump wrote to Prime Minister of Pakistan some 7 months ago, this was specially mentioned, the economic cooperation, and I've also seen and heard this from others. Let me also say a few words about our Sikh brothers who are sitting here. You perhaps are aware that Pakistan takes great pride in the Sikh heritage of Pakistan, like we take pride in the Christian heritage of Pakistan, in the Hindu heritage of Pakistan, and we have books which have been published. There's a book on Gurdwaras, there is a book on temples, there is a book on Christian churches, some of the beautiful churches in Pakistan. I see Siddiq Salik Saab sitting there. He has worked a lot for the Christian community in Pakistan. By the way, I do not use the word minority. I don't use it. I know that it has been used in the official channels because I believe that regardless of the faith, every Pakistani is an equal citizen under the Constitution of Pakistan. And finally, and I know that there is a book which has been published on Sikh heritage in Pakistan, which was probably inaugurated here in Library of Congress. I understand a delegation is coming this afternoon to meet me. And finally, let me welcome my very esteemed senior colleague and now President of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Sardar Masood Khan. It's been more than 37 years that I've known him. We trained together, and ever since he has attained heights of professional excellence that we, many in our service, have been aspiring to. And I am truly pleased and honored that he has devoted his life for Kashmir cause, for the people of Kashmir, and today he is continuing that mission which he did in Geneva, in New York, in Washington, in Beijing, and elsewhere, and today he is doing that as president of AJK. And if you see his routine, it's a very punishing routine. He is traveling to every city of Azad Kashmir, he's traveling to other cities of Pakistan, and he's traveling to other cities in the world, carrying this mission, which in my view is a very noble mission. Always remember, ladies and gentlemen, the people of Pakistan and the people of Kashmir are connected historically, linguistically, and for centuries, not just in the recent past, for centuries. All rivers from Kashmir come towards Pakistan, all roads flow towards Pakistan. Kashmir ki mandi was always Rawalpindi. So I think this bond cannot be terminated. So the people of Pakistan will always extend political, moral, and diplomatic support to the people of Kashmir regardless. And I think United States, being the preeminent power, being the beacon of justice for people of the world, being the harbinger of the glorious values that founding father of the United States gave to this country, the values of democracy and freedom and liberty and rule of law and justice, I think that country should play a role in resolving the Kashmir issue, because they must see those same values becoming available to the people of Kashmir. In the end, I would like to once again commend our organizers for doing a wonderful job and please raising the voices of the oppressed people of Kashmir, but also play your part in bringing Pakistan and America closer. America is now your home. You are American citizens, but you have a country of heritage, and that is a great strength to you. God bless you all. God bless America, and God bless Pakistan.
Brothers and sisters, I'll start with the great poet of the subcontinent, Bulle Shah. And one of his saying in Punjabi is, Sach bolan ta pambad machda hai, jhoot bolan ta kuch bachda hai, ji doਹਾਂ gallan to jakda hai, jach jach ke jeba kendi hai, muh ai baat na rendi hai. Pakistani American Congress deserves congratulations that they have carried on this mission of US-Pakistan friendship for the last 27 years. And the situation has become more critical in these years when we say that the policymakers here have changed that belief, which always says a friend in need is a friend indeed. And today what we are seeing is, when we look at the subcontinent, 1,300,000,000 are in Indian map. And the question may be that why a Sikh who is not even of Pakistani origin, and all my brothers are what they are doing here. We have at stake, much at stake, along with Pakistan, along with stability, prosperity, and peace in the region. We shouldn't forget that during the 1940s negotiation on transfer of power, Sikhs were the third party to that negotiation. We sided with India on the assurances that no constitution in India will be accepted which won't be acceptable to the Sikhs. What we found to our dismay during the discussion in the Constituent Assembly on Indian Constitution was that Article 25B of Indian Constitution clubs Sikhs, Buddhists and Jains as Hindus. That was the time when two Sikh representatives in the Constituent Assembly, they said, this is betrayal of the Sikhs, this is betrayal of the promises made to the Sikhs, we reject this constitution. Fact of the matter is that de facto we may be captured in Indian map, but de jure we haven't accepted the Indian constitution. When we appreciate Pakistan, not for the religious reasons, my Makkah and Medina both are in Pakistan. Birthplace of Guru Nanak Sahib, Nankana Sahib is in Pakistan, which has been accorded the status of a district. And thousands of Sikh pilgrims from around the globe will testify that it may be Pakistani Rangers, it may be Pakistani security agencies, they don't sleep. When during the visit of those pilgrims, they visit those places and every Sikh is gone safely out of Pakistan, only then they came rest. And not only that, Pakistan outside India is the only country which has Pakistan Sikh Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee to take care of 174 Sikh historical shrines in Pakistan. In India, while we have contributed so much, and many will say that what's the problem of Sikhs in India, then ask 200 million Muslims in Indian map. Sometimes when I listen to some Pakistani intellectuals or on your talk shows, the very logic that why Pakistan, why not if we would have been together in India? Look at what is happening to 200 million Muslims, 25 million Sikhs, 30 million Christians, more than 100 million Dalits. those who have been termed as untouchable by Brahminical decree, and then you'll appreciate that how a beautiful country like Pakistan has given safety, security and prosperity to at least 180 million in that part of the world. Pakistan has become the first country. Just a couple of weeks ago, Pakistan's Punjab Assembly has passed a legislation recognizing Sikh marriages as a, under that act, under the Sikh Marriage Act, which is called Anand Marriage Act. Now during the time of Mr. Haider, when he used to be the law minister, a ordinance was issued, but as it was not rectified within 6 months, and now it has been left to the provinces, Punjab Assembly is the first assembly in the world which has recognized Sikh Marriage Act, giving separate recognition to the Sikh entity. So these factors have brought us here on this forum to discuss that if we look at the subcontinent when it comes to India, the fact of the matter is India has voted more times against United States of America in the UN Security Council or UN General Assembly. When the Cold War was there, India was just the satellite country of the Soviet Union. How all of a sudden, India, which is the most repressive regime now in the world, as US-CIRF person was here, he was reading the report that what is the situation of religious minorities in Pakistan. I think he forgot to tell that 3 times the delegation of US-CIRF has been denied visas to visit India. And still, India is the so-called largest democracy on the planet. What is happening to the Kashmiris for the last 70 years in general and in the past 3 decades in particular? Thousands of Kashmiri kids, youngsters, boys, girls have been blinded due to their pellet guns. And now just 2 days ago, Indian Home Ministry has decided that they will be sending their special commandos or special forces in Kashmir. And in spite of 15 plus UN Security Council's resolutions there, why United Nations Security Council or United States of America or other so-called peace brokers of the world are not intervening in that part of the world, giving right of self-determination to the Kashmiris, right of self-determination to the Sikhs of Punjab, or right of self-determination to the Assamese. I think this, and I was very much impressed, both of our ambassador here from Pakistan and President of Azad Kashmir, though both are bureaucrats, diplomats, but they have spoken very eloquently. Most of the time, when there is a definition of diplomat, that when a diplomat says yes, he means perhaps. When he says perhaps, he means no. When he says no, he's a no diplomat. But I want to commend that very vocally they have advocated the same needs to be done here by Pakistani community, lobbying within the Congress, and I am proud to say that we have US Congressional Sikh Caucus, in which there are more than 50 plus bipartisan congressmen part of it. And to counter whatever India is doing, on one hand, Pakistan has suffered in all these years, is suffering regularly, but that Modi, who stands on the Red Fort and says Pakistan is the mother of terrorism, he talks about interfering in Balochistan, in Gilgit, in other parts, and why not here, where we are active? We should be working with the opinion makers, lawmakers, decision makers here to influence the decision making. Indians believing in the Chanakya theory that speak the lie so loudly that even nobody may say it can't be a lie, and they may start believing it. I think we are failing in this front, and we need to be more active. And I think that Pakistani, this not only think tank, Pakistani American Congress, as they have worked for 27 years, they have brought all of us on this platform, but more needs to be done, more involvement of the community. And I'll conclude with one thing. that one my friend, Mr. A. Sheikh, he used to be president of North American Kashmir Association. We worked together for 18 years. I still have an office in National Press Building for the last 18 years. He used to say, road from Lahore to Srinagar goes via Amritsar. Sikh factor is very important in that part of the subcontinent, and I expect and I hope that Pakistan's opinion makers or policy makers, they understand this factor. If India can intervene in all those things which is none of its business, why not on the human rights issues? Pakistani diplomats in UN, on the other international forums, they should speak for Kashmiris, for Sikhs, for others very vocally. And I want to assure you that 1 million Sikhs in this country, 30 million around the world, we have great respect for Pakistan. And one my Sikh friend from Canada who visited Pakistan, he said that if Sikhs genuinely have any respect anywhere in the world, that is Pakistan. And that is what I am really thankful. And with all the best wishes, thank you very much. Khuda Hafiz, Rab Rakha.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful speech.
Sometimes we have difficulties, sometimes we are smooth, and sometimes it is ideal. We want to make US-Pakistan friendship ideal. And how we could contribute? There are so many ways that we could contribute to make this friendship ideal. We are having a very distinguished man of US Capitol, and the person who is trying to contribute to make this friendship smooth and ideal. He is one of the most powerful men of Washington, D.C. in media perspective, and he is the chairman of the Washington Times, Mr. Tom McDavid. Mr. Tom McDavid is the one that most recently we have seen that how North and South Korea are being, collaborating and working together for peace in that region. And believe in me, last month, we were together in Korea, and Mr. Tom McDavid, Mr. Dan Burton, and Honorable Congressman Dan Burton, and CIA former chief, Mr. James Woolsey. All they were there, and I was also part of that conference, and how he was working hard, bring together two countries, and he shared one great perspective that what is the unification of North and South Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, our Honorable Speaker now, which I'm presenting, Mr. Tom McDavid. Tom McDavid is also President of the Universal Peace Federation. This federation is working with 170 nations in the world, and this federation is most powerful and most vocal to the world peace. And Mr. Tom McDavid, when I always talk about him and speak about him, I always say that he is the most compassionate man as well. He wants to make this world peaceful, and he is trying to work on great project, and definitely it will be happening soon. He wanted to give a gift to Pakistani nation as a special report for Pakistan, and he is working with a team not only from Pakistan side, from the Washington Times side, that report will be coming soon. I'm very honored and very happy to invite Mr. Tom McDavid at the podium, and please welcome my distinguished guest, Mr. Tom McDavid.
Thank you so much, my dear friend, Dr. Kazmi. I've known Dr. Kazmi for more than 2 decades, and through dozens and even hundreds of exchanges together, both in America and around the world. I have come to know through him and through many other friends, including Ambassador Chaudhary, the passion, the intelligence, the creativity, the significance globally of the people of Pakistan. My special interest today is thanks to the Pakistan American Congress for holding this event. I attended last year as well. And as Dr. Kazmi said, we were together in Asia just recently. And I wear two hats. One is a for-profit media communications role as chairman of the Washington Times. And second, in the nonprofit space, I'm the chairman and president of UPF, Universal Peace Federation International. So I want to touch on two issues, relationships and communication. In terms of relationships, a couple of the key projects we're working on that directly affect Pakistan and the region is through the UPF effort called the International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace. It was launched almost 2 years ago in Korea. Now in over 80 countries, over 3,000 incumbent parliamentarians, including about 40 from your nation of Pakistan, have joined together in a new global coalition for the sake of peace, substantial peace on earth in our time, addressing the critical challenges in the world on all sides of the planet, in all the continents. I was in Korea 2 years ago when we launched it. We then went to Africa, both East and West Africa, then to Tokyo, to London, to Costa Rica, Paraguay, and then back to Korea, and then over 80 countries launched this effort. It was a set of principles based on interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values. I just came from Vienna, where we had 10,000 opinion leaders gathered in a stadium there for a conference, and some 300 parliamentarians. Prior to that in Senegal, Africa, 1,200 gathered, including from Pakistan and from all over the Middle East. There's something brewing. As a media person, I can see the surface of communications where we see all the tension and the struggle and the strife. But underneath that, there's something moving in the world I observe that is really precious, and it has to do with building bridges that are essentially interfaith by being ambassadors for peace. And Dr. Kazmi has helped lead that way in your country, where we have hundreds of people committed to this effort. The second issue I wanted to mention is communications. In the Washington Times, we reach millions and millions of Americans every day through our website. And we recently started working with some of the experts in your country because I felt, as chairman, there's really a need to help the American public, especially the opinion elites, understand the dynamics of Pakistan, understand the importance of our relationship, and build for the future. And to that end, we looked at various different areas that I would advise we really concentrate on to help the American public realize what Pakistan is and who you are, and that it is not simply the image that somehow Pakistan is leaning towards helping people of terrorism and bad will. That's not the case. And so with that in mind, in talking with your ambassador, we outlined several key points that I'll leave you with. One, we need to communicate the importance of the alliance of Pakistan and America, and we need to have the right people say that. Thank you. There's also the issue of the history of Pakistan, and going back to the founding principles of your country and the esteemed president, the founding father, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and his background, the fact that even Thomas Jefferson was interested in the Quran, and so that's something that most people have no idea of. The profiles of your first cabinet, the first 70 years, it's such a rich history. Next, the national character of Pakistan. You have such a unique country, the merger of so many different mountain ranges, such character of your country. The Pakistan contributions of Pakistani Americans is so vital for people to understand. Few Americans, even the most educated, don't realize that story. And then finally, why Pakistan and America matter to each other. So we put together an idea to create a special report to tell this story, both in the digital space and in print, so that every member of Congress could see that. At the heart of the matter are the principles of peace, that we are all really one family under one creator. And I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words to that extent. We're living in a time where innovation in medicine and in technology and in so many other areas was unimaginable even 10 years ago. The same level of innovation and brilliance needs to be applied to the realm of diplomacy and statesmanship, and it's all based on building human relationships in which we see that we really do come from one origin, we have one destiny as a human race, and we belong to one another as brothers and sisters under one set of universal values. Let us work together to build peace in this era, and thank you so much for your work together with Pakistan America. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tom McDavid, for your time and your generous views about not only for Pakistan, about people of Pakistan, even for the humanity. Because we feel that we are one nation under God. Because Pakistan is suffering a lot. Pakistan has sacrificed a lot just for one thing. That was the peace perspective. As the Honorable Ambassador and Honorable President of the Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Khan has told to the audience that how we are suffering for the peace in that region and how we keep dear peace in our lives as a Muslim, as a good Pakistani, and even in all over the world where our Pakistanis are, they are working very hard for the peace and prosperity of the world. Here, because we are the contributors for this society, who they have contributed a lot, not only in the field of medical field, in education, and even our people are making proud to the world when they are winning the Oscars, when they are getting the Nobel Peace Prizes, when our kids are being recognized as a world peace lovers. So this is very important that we are honoring those people. Here we have one beautiful lady from the capital, Mrs. Tomiko Dugan, and she is willing to present one book to the Honorable President of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. And this book is all about peace and prosperity and how Islam sees the peace. So thank you very much for, Mr. J. Saleh, would you please come at the podium? Yes. Everyone know about Mr. J. Saleh. Mr. J. Saleh is basically a beautiful identity of Pakistan. When he speaks about the peace and religion of peace, about Islam, and he is presenting the book to. Now we are continuing this session, and please remain be seated here, because we have the lunch bags on side, and you could grab your lunch bag even. And but here is one ceremony that we are, giving certificates to some very important people, and among that people, there's most of the people are the youth. So please encourage them, and they are coming here to receive the certificates.
So first of all, they were in sequence, but now we have to just keep on going. So first one is Mr. Umar Farooq, who is producer, director, and he has a history of filmmaking. Now, political activist and a community worker. I have a lot of other things to say about him, but the time is short, so I request Mr. Adnan Bukhari to come and receive your certificate. And the next one is from the music world, and he has more than 20 years of experience in music and different folk, cultural, and violin. So I have a long, his bio, but I just want to save some time. And sorry for not, telling all of you his whole achievements. But I request a father and a son together, Ustad Dilshad Hussain and Ustad Samar Khan. Thank you. Some kind words.
Next.
Now, a good hockey player and the coach and journalist and is a multi-dimension person, and he's a member of USA hockey team. And he's going to play in, I think, Spain in July in Barcelona. So I request Asim Siddiqui to please receive your award. Another community activist and good our Kashmiri friend is always there when the community needs him. So I request Sardar Zulfikar Khan to receive his certificate. Looks like he's not here, but I request Zarif Khan Saab to receive his award. And Zarif Khan Sahib, please receive yours too. You have the same qualities, maybe a little more or a little less, but thank you very much for serving the community. So now is a 50-state marathon runner, our one and only, Mr. Agha Hasnan. She's running for the delegate in Maryland, and she's our bright face of our Pakistani American community. So I request Ms. Asha Khan to receive her award. The next one is the person who has served the community for more than 30 years in all kind of weathers, and day and night he worked for the community. I cannot tell you the whole list of his achievements, but shortly I just want to call his name, and Mr. Shahzad Chaudhary, if you please come and receive your award. Now another community activist and the community worker, political activist, and he's been doing so much for the community for a long time, fundraisings and everything, and helping the community. I request Mr. Chaudhary Muhammad Akbar to please receive your award.
साहब के लिए next year.
So Director of Voice of South Asia and long-time journalist is a long list of achievements, but I just want to request Saeed Adib Saab to receive his certificate. Again, I want to request Zarif Khan Saab to come forward and please receive the award for Mr. Zubair Khan Saab. It's a Kashmiri Pakistani, Kashmiri American. And this award this goes to another community worker and more is a journalist, and he has shaped journalism in our area to the extent that now we can look at the journalists as a part of our integral part of our community. So I request Mr. Kausar Javed to receive his award. Now he's a brilliant actor, director, producer, and a brilliant person by himself. And I request Mr. Noor Nagmi to receive his certificate. He's already left, so I request his partner, Umar Farooq, to receive his award. From the IT field, I want to request Mansoor Qureshi. Sorry, last one is Ambassador साहब, last one अगर दे सकते हैं तो this is the last one एक है. I request the journalist and correspondent of ARY News, Janzeb Ali, to receive his certificate. Thank you. बस डन हो गया, बाकी इतनी ही नहीं, बस कुछ हैं वो उनको दे देते हैं. मोहम्मद अली का है.